The warning lights flashed red across the bridge of the Stellar Pioneer. First Officer Han looked at his screen again, hoping he had read the numbers wrong. He hadn't. The quantum core temperature was rising fast, too fast. "Captain Lee," Han called out, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "We have a serious problem with the core." Captain Lee walked quickly to Han's station, his old boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. The numbers on the screen made his face turn pale. He pressed the ship-wide communication button without hesitation. "This is Captain Lee. All crew members must go to their emergency stations immediately. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill." In the engine room, Chief Engineer Song was already fighting to save the ship. Her hands moved quickly over the controls as she tried to stop the quantum core from breaking down. Sweat ran down her face as warning alarms screamed around her. "Engineering to bridge," she called. "Captain, the core stabilizers are failing. We have maybe 30 minutes before total failure." The captain's voice came back clear and firm. "Can you fix it?" "No, sir," Song replied, her voice shaking slightly. "The damage is too deep. We need to evacuate. Now." On Deck C, Security Officer Kim was already moving. He checked his tablet as he ran through the corridors, making sure all crew members were heading to their evacuation points. His black uniform was neat despite his rush, and his eyes were sharp as he watched the crew move. Medical Officer Park joined him at the intersection of C and D decks. Her medical kit bounced against her hip as she ran. "Kim, we need to check the medical bay. There are 3 patients who can't walk." Kim nodded, and they changed direction together. Behind them, they could hear the sound of escape pods launching. The deep thuds echoed through the ship's halls. In navigation, Specialist Choi was sending out emergency signals to any ships in range. His fingers flew over the keyboard as he programmed the rescue beacon. Next to him, Systems Engineer Ba was downloading the ship's logs. They needed to know why this happened, if they survived. Escape pods 1 through 15 had launched, the computer announced in its calm voice. 16 through 25 are ready for boarding. The ship shook. Kim and Park felt the floor vibrate under their feet as they helped the last patient into pod 26. The medical bay was now empty. All critical sections evacuated. Kim reported into his communicator. He looked at the 3 people with him. Park, Choi, and Ba had all ended up in his group. "We're boarding pod 27 now." Captain Lee's voice came through the speaker. "Good. We're launching the last pods. Get out of there, Officer Kim." They helped each other into the pod. The inside was small but clean, with 4 acceleration chairs and storage compartments for food and water. As they strapped in, Kim could see other pods shooting away from the ship through the small window. Engineer Ba's hands were steadied as she worked the pod's controls. "Launch sequence starting," she said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were wide with fear. The pod shook as it prepared to launch. Through the window, they could see the Stellar Pioneer's massive hull. The ship that had been their home for the past 2 years was about to be lost forever. "Launch in 5, 4, 3. The pod's computer started to count down. Suddenly, the ship's hull near them glowed red. The quantum core was starting to breach. "Override. Launch now," Kim shouted. Ba slammed her hand on the emergency launch button. Their pod shot away from the ship just as a wave of energy burst from the hull. The force caught their pod and sent it spinning away from the plant course. Inside, they held tight to their seats as warning lights flashed. The pod systems were damaged by the energy wave, but they were alive. As the spinning slowed, they could see the Stellar Pioneer through the window, growing smaller in the distance. "Is everyone okay?" Park asked, already unstrapping herself to check on the others. They nodded, still catching their breath. Kim looked at his tablet, trying to track the other pods, but the screen was dead. The energy wave had damaged their communications. "Where are we?" Choi asked, looking out at the unfamiliar stars. Bai checked the navigation system. Her face got serious. "We're off course," she said quietly. "Way off course. And the emergency beacon isn't working." They all looked at each other as the truth sank in. They were alive, but they were lost in deep space with limited supplies and no way to call for help. Behind them, in the distance, their ship floated silently among the stars, waiting for its core to finally fail. The real test of survival was just beginning. Hour 6 in the escape pod felt like day 6. Officer Kim sat in the pilot's chair, watching the emergency lights blink on the control panel. The pod's spinning had stopped, but their problems were just beginning. "How bad is it?" he asked Engineer Ba, who was lying on her back under the communication panel, tools scattered around her. Ba slid out, wiping her forehead with the back of her hand. "Not good. The energy wave from the ship damaged most of our systems. Life support is working, but communications are dead. I can't fix them with what we have here." Medical Officer Park looked up from her tablet, where she was counting their supplies. "We have food and water for 30 days, if we're careful. The air recyclers are working at 80% capacity." Navigation Specialist Choi hadn't spoken much since the launch. He sat at his station, trying to figure out where they were. "The nav system is partly working," he said quietly, "but I don't recognize these star patterns. That energy wave pushed us far off course." Kim stood up and looked at his 3 crew members. They were scared, but they were trained professionals. They needed a plan. "Okay," he said, his voice firm. "Let's focus on what we can do, not what we can't. Ba, keep working on communications. Even if you can't fix them completely, maybe you can get out a simple signal." Bai nodded and went back to work. Her determination showed in her face as she pulled apart wires and reconnected them in new ways. "Park, we need to set up strict rationing immediately. 30 days sounds like a lot, but we don't know how long we'll be out here." "Already working on it," Park replied. She started organizing their supplies into small daily portions. "We should also set up an exercise schedule. Being in this small space for too long isn't good for our bodies." "Good thinking," Kim agreed. He turned to Choi. "Keep trying to figure out where we are. Even if we can't communicate, knowing our location might help us plan what to do next." Suddenly, a bright flash lit up the pod's window. They all rushed to look out. In the distance, the Stellar Pioneer, their home for so long, exploded in a burst of blue and white light. The quantum core had finally failed. They watched in silence as pieces of their ship scattered across space. Each of them thought about the memories they had made there, and the friends they hoped had made it to safety in other pods. "Look," Park pointed at something. Through the window, they could see other escape pods in the distance. The explosion had lit them up for a moment, tiny dots against the darkness of space. "They're too far away," Ba said sadly. "Even if our communications were working, they're out of range now." The reality of their situation hit them all again. They were alone in an unknown part of space, in a damaged pod with limited supplies. "We need to sleep in shifts," Kim decided. 2 awake, 2 asleep. We can't afford to miss anything important. They arranged the sleeping schedule, and Kim took the first watch with Park. Bai and Choi tried to sleep in the pod's small rest area. Hours passed slowly. Kim watched the stars through the window, while Park organized their medical supplies. The pod's gentle humming was the only sound. "Do you think the rescue ships will find us?" Park asked quietly, not wanting to wake the others. Kim thought carefully before answering. "They'll look for us. But we need to be ready to save ourselves. Humans are good at that, surviving when things look impossible." Park smiled a little. "Is that why you became a security officer? To help people survive?" "I became a security officer to protect people," Kim replied. "Right now, that means keeping us alive until we figure out our next move." A small alarm beeped on the control panel. Bai woke up immediately and checked it. "The pod's sensors are picking up something," she said, pressing buttons quickly. "It's big, and it's moving. They all gathered around the window, trying to see what was out there. At first, there was nothing but stars. Then they saw it, a large shape moving through space, unlike anything they had seen before. "That's not a human ship," Choi whispered. The unknown ship grew larger as it came closer. Its design was strange, with curves and angles that no human engineer would have created. Kim looked at his crew. They were about to have their first contact with an alien species, and they weren't ready. But being ready wasn't an option anymore. "Whatever happens next," he said calmly, "we stay together. We're still crew, even without our ship." They watched as the alien vessel came closer, all of them wondering if this would be their rescue or their doom. The alien ship was 3 times bigger than their escape pod. Its surface looked like flowing water made of metal, with lights that pulsed in patterns they didn't understand. The pod's crew watched as it came closer, their hearts beating fast. "Should we try to run?" Choi asked, his hands hovering over the navigation controls. Kim shook his head. "We don't have enough fuel, and they probably just want to help." He hoped he was right. A blue light from the alien ship swept over their pod. Engineer Ba checked the readings on her tablet. "They're scanning us," she said. "But our systems can't tell what kind of scan it is." The pod's lights flickered, and suddenly all their screens lit up with strange symbols. They changed quickly, like someone was trying different languages. "They're attempting to communicate," Ba said, her eyes wide with excitement. She started typing on her keyboard, sending back basic mathematical sequences, the universal language of space. The aliens responded with more numbers. Then English words appeared on their screen. "Life forms inside small vessel. Require assistance." "They learned our language from our computer files," Park said, amazed. "Should we answer?" Kim nodded and typed carefully. "Yes. We are humans. Our ship was destroyed. We need help." The response came quickly. "Prepare for transport. Do not fear." A soft humming filled the pod, and a door-shaped opening appeared in the side of the alien ship. It looked like a tunnel made of light, stretching between their pod and the alien vessel. "It's some kind of docking system," Ba said, checking the readings. "The tunnel has air in it. We can breathe." Kim stood up straight and looked at his crew. "We go together. Stay close. Remember your training about first contact situations." They gathered their most important supplies and moved to their pod's airlock. The door opened with a quiet hiss, and they saw the light tunnel up close. It sparkled like sunshine on water. "This is amazing," Park whispered as they walked through the tunnel. Their feet felt light, but they didn't float away. The aliens had some kind of artificial gravity. At the end of the tunnel, they found themselves in a large room. The walls were covered in moving patterns that looked like living art. The air smelled clean, with a hint of something sweet. Then they saw the aliens. They were tall, about 7 feet, with bodies that reminded them of Earth's octopi, but standing upright. Their skin changed colors as they moved, and they had 4 eyes that blinked in pairs. 3 of them stood waiting. The humans stayed calm, just like their training taught them. They had practiced for this moment in simulations, but the real thing was very different. The middle alien stepped forward. Its skin turned a soft blue color, which they hoped meant peace. It held up a device that spoke in a clear voice. "Welcome, humans. We are the VAR. We have never met your kind before." Kim stepped forward as the group's leader. "Thank you for saving us. We are grateful for your help." The alien's skin rippled with new colors. "Your small vessel was damaged. We watched you help each other survive. Very interesting. Humans work well together." "Yes," Kim said. "We are trained to help each other in dangerous situations." The aliens spoke among themselves in sounds that reminded the humans of music. Then they turned back to their guests. "We have questions," the translator device said. "You will answer. We will help you return home." Bass stepped forward excitedly. "We can teach you about humans if you teach us about your people." The alien's skin turned bright colors, which seemed like happiness. Good trade. Knowledge for knowledge. They led the humans deeper into their ship. The corridors were wide and curved, with the same moving patterns on the walls. Everything felt alive somehow. Park looked at the medical equipment they passed, her eyes full of wonder. Choi studied the navigation displays, trying to understand the alien star maps. Ba couldn't stop looking at their technology, while Kim watched everything carefully, still protecting his crew. The alien ship was full of surprises, but the biggest surprise was how normal it started to feel. The aliens were different from humans in many ways, but they were also curious, helpful, and wanted to learn. As they walked, Kim thought about how strange life was. They had lost their ship and almost died. But now they were making history as the first humans to meet the VAR. Sometimes the worst days could lead to the most amazing discoveries. The meeting room on the VAR ship looked more like a garden than a formal space. Living plants grew from the walls, and soft lights danced across the ceiling like stars. The 4 humans sat on comfortable chairs that adjusted to fit their bodies perfectly. 3 VARs sat across from them. The leader, who had introduced itself as Sun Sound, the closest human translation, spoke through the translator device. "We have studied your pod's computer. Humans have interesting medicine, different from ours." Medical Officer Park nodded. "Yes, we've developed many ways to heal different injuries and illnesses." The VAR's skin rippled with colors of interest, green and gold swirls. "We offer trade. Your medical knowledge for safe transport to human space." Kim looked at his crew carefully. Sharing human medical knowledge was usually restricted, but their situation wasn't usual. They needed help getting home. "What exactly do you want to know?" Park asked carefully. Sun Sound's skin showed patterns they hadn't seen before. "Many of our people are sick. Old illness from our home world. Your medicine might help." Park's face softened. She looked at Kim, silently asking permission to tell them more. "Can you show us what's wrong with your people?" Kim asked. "Before we agree to trade." The VAR led them to their medical bay. Unlike human hospitals, which were usually white and plain, this one was full of colors and gentle sounds. In several beds, VAR lay still, their skin barely changing color. "Color change is life for us," Sun Sound explained. "When colors stop, life fades." Park moved closer to examine the sick VAR, using her tablet to take readings. "This reminds me of something we've seen before," she said. "A problem with cells not getting enough energy. We have treatments for similar conditions." The VAR's excitement made their skin flash with bright yellow spots. "You can help." "I think so," Park said. "But we need to be careful. Your bodies are different from ours. We need to test things slowly." Kim gathered his crew for a private discussion. They spoke quietly in a corner while the VAR waited patiently. "We can't give them all our medical knowledge," Ba said. "But we can't just let their people die if we can help. What if we trade specific treatments?" Choi suggested. "Just what they need for this illness." Kim nodded. "Park, what do you think? Can you safely share enough to help them?" Park was already working on her tablet. "Yes, I can teach them about this type of treatment without revealing restricted information. And maybe they can teach us about their medical technology too. Some of it looks amazing." They returned to the VAR with their decision. Kim spoke clearly. "We will trade. Medical Officer Park will help treat your sick people and teach you about this specific treatment. In exchange, you help us get home and share some of your medical knowledge with us." The VAR discussed among themselves, their skin patterns changing rapidly. Finally, Sun Sound turned back to them. "We agree. Fair trade." Over the next few hours, Park worked with the VAR doctors. She was surprised by how quickly they understood her explanations. Their technology made testing new treatments much faster than on human ships. Meanwhile, Ba and Choi learned about the VAR ship's systems. The aliens were very open about sharing their navigation technology, which was far more advanced than human systems. "Look at this," Choi said excitedly to Kim. They can calculate safe paths through space that our computers would take days to figure out. Kim watched everything carefully. The VAR seemed honest and helpful, but his job was still to protect his crew. Yet with each hour that passed, he felt more comfortable with their new allies. That evening, they gathered again in the garden-like meeting room. The VAR served food that their systems had confirmed was safe for humans. It tasted strange but good. First treatment working, Sun Sound announced happily. Their skin showed beautiful patterns of joy. Sick ones showing more color already. Park smiled, tired but satisfied. The treatment will take time, but yes, it's working. Tomorrow we start journey to human space, Sun Sound said. Long trip, but safe trip. As they ate together, humans and VAR sharing stories about their different worlds, Kim thought about how this trade had given them more than just a way home. It had shown that even in the deepest parts of space, people could help each other and learn from each other. Sometimes the best trades weren't just about what you gave and got. They were about the trust you built along the way. 3 days into their journey on the VAR ship, Choi sat at the alien navigation console, learning how their star maps worked. His eyes were wide with wonder as a VAR named Light Whisper taught him about their way of traveling through space. Your ships follow straight lines between stars, Light Whisper explained through the translator. We follow space currents, like rivers in the sky. Faster, safer. Choi watched as the aliens' fingers danced over the controls, showing how their ship rode these invisible currents. This would change everything about how humans travel in space, he said quietly. In another part of the ship, Engineer Ba worked with the VAR engineers. They showed her their engine room, which looked more like a garden than a machine. Plants with glowing leaves grew around humming crystal structures. Living technology, a VAR engineer named Deep Glow explained. Plants and crystals work together. Clean energy never explodes like your quantum core. Bai took careful notes on her tablet. Our ships could be so much safer with this kind of system, she said. Meanwhile, Medical Officer Park continued working with the sick VAR. The treatment she had shared was working well. More patients were showing brighter colors each day, and the VAR doctors were teaching her about their healing techniques in return. Your medicine fixes body parts, her VAR teacher, Soft Tone, explained. Our medicine helps body heal itself. Together, both better. Security Officer Kim spent his time learning about the VAR themselves. Sun Sound told him about their history, their home world, and why they were traveling so far from it. Our star grew sick, Sun Sound said, its skin showing sad blue patterns. Had to leave home. Looking for new place. Many ships, many families, all scattered in space. You're refugees, Kim realized. Just trying to find a safe place to live. Suddenly, an alarm sounded through the ship. It wasn't loud or harsh like human alarms, but more like urgent music. The crew rushed to the bridge. Emergency signal, Light Whisper announced, working the controls. From another small vessel, like yours. On the main screen, they saw another human escape pod floating in space. It was damage, worse than theirs had been. It must be from our ship, Park said. We have to help them. The VAR didn't hesitate. They changed course immediately, moving to rescue the pod. As they got closer, they could see that the pod's life support systems were failing. 3 life signs inside, Soft Tone reported, reading the ship's sensors. Weak, but alive. The VAR used their light tunnel to bring the pod aboard. When the airlock opened, the humans rushed to help their fellow crew members. Inside, they found Maintenance Chief Yoon, Communications Officer Shin, and Junior Engineer Nam, all barely conscious. Park quickly checked their condition. They're dehydrated and their oxygen was running low, but they'll be okay, she reported as the VAR helped move them to the medical bay. Hours later, after the rescued crew members had received treatment and rest, they shared their story. Their pod had also been thrown off course by the explosion, but they had suffered more damage. We thought we were going to die out there, Shin said, still looking shaken. We lost power to everything except basic life support. and that was failing too. Yoon looked around the VAR ship with amazement. When we saw your ship approaching, we thought we were hallucinating. Never imagined we'd be rescued by aliens. The VAR brought food and comfortable places for everyone to rest. As the humans talked, Kim noticed something interesting. The VAR were watching them with their 4 eyes showing patterns of deep interest. Why you help each other so much? Sun Sound asked. Even risk changing course. Because that's what humans do, Kim explained. We don't leave our people behind if we can help it. The VAR's skin showed patterns of respect and understanding. Like us with our scattered ships, Sun Sound said. Maybe humans, and VAR not so different. That night, as the expanded group of humans rested in their quarters, Kim thought about how much they had learned in just a few days. The VAR had shown them new ways to travel in space, new types of technology, and new ways of healing. But maybe the most important thing they had learned was that, no matter where you came from in the huge space between stars, the need to help others and stick together was the same. The medical bay of the VAR ship was getting crowded. Medical Officer Park moved between beds, checking on both the recovering VAR patients and the 3 newly rescued humans. The room's living walls pulsed with gentle light, helping everyone stay calm. How are they doing? Kim asked as he entered the medical bay. Park looked up from her tablet. Better. The VAR healing techniques are amazing. Chief Yoon and Officer Shin are already much stronger. Nam is still weak, but he's improving. Junior Engineer Nam lay in his bed, his face pale but his eyes alert. The young engineer had suffered the most during their time in the damaged pod. He watched the VAR doctors work with obvious curiosity. I've never seen anything like their medical equipment, Nam said softly. It's like it's alive. That's because it is, Park explained. The VAR use living technology for everything. Even their ship is partly alive. Maintenance Chief Yoon sat up in his bed, looking stronger than he had when they found him. Speaking of the ship, he said, I've been talking with the VAR engineers. They're worried about something. Kim pulled up a chair. What do you mean? Their ship wasn't meant to carry this many people, Yoon explained. The life support systems are working harder than usual. Deep Glow told me they might need to find somewhere to stop and restore their resources. Communications Officer Shin joined the conversation from her bed. I've been studying their language patterns, she said. They're trying not to show it, but they're concerned. Resources are getting low. Kim nodded slowly. The VAR had been nothing but kind and helpful, but they couldn't risk their own survival. He needed to talk with Sun Sound. He found the VAR leader in the ship's garden room, its skin showing worried patterns of green and gray. The translator device sat ready on a nearby table. We know about the resource problem, Kim said directly. We want to help find a solution. Sun Sound's skin rippled with surprise. How did you know? Humans are good at noticing patterns, Kim explained, and we care about our host's well-being. The VAR leader's colors shifted to a more relaxed blue. There is a place we can stop. A small outpost where our people rest and gather supplies. But it means leaving the direct path to human space. How long would it delay us? 3 days to reach outpost. 1 day to restore supplies. 2 days to return to path. Kim thought about it. 6 days was a long delay, but they had no choice. They couldn't risk the VAR ship's systems failing. He gathered all the humans together to explain the situation. They sat in a circle in their shared quarters, both the original 4 and the 3 rescued crew members. We can use the time at the outpost to learn more about VAR technology, Baz suggested. Maybe find ways to help them improve their systems. Nam nodded eagerly, some color returning to his face. I've been thinking about how to combine their living technology with our engineering methods. We might be able to help their life support systems work better. And I can continue working with their medical team, Park added. The combined treatments are working better than either of ours alone. Choi had been quiet, studying something on his tablet. There's something else, he said. I've been looking at the star maps. The outpost is in a region of space where other escape pods might have ended up. Everyone grew silent at this news. They all thought about their other crew members, possibly still out there in pods. "We have to try," Shin said firmly, "if there's any chance of finding more survivors." Kim looked at each face in the room. They had all been through so much, but none of them hesitated at the thought of helping others. He went back to Sun Sound with their decision. "We'll go to the outpost," he said, "and we want to help improve your ship's systems while we're there." Humans and VAR working together. Sun Sound's skin showed bright patterns of joy and relief. "Together better than alone," the VAR leader said. Always true, no matter what species. The ship changed course, heading for the outpost. As they traveled, humans and VAR worked side by side, sharing knowledge and stories. They were no longer just rescuers and rescued. They were becoming true allies. And somewhere out in space, perhaps other pods were waiting to be found, carrying more survivors who needed their help. The VAR outpost looked like a flower blooming in space. Its petals were actually docking arms made of the same living metal as their ship. As they got closer, they saw other VAR ships connected to these arms, resting and gathering supplies. While the VAR ship docked, Engineer Bai and Junior Engineer Nam were in their quarters, looking through the data they had saved from the Stellar Pioneer. Something had been bothering Bai about the engine failure. "Look at this," she said, pointing to her screen. "These readings from the quantum core, they're not right." Nam leaned closer. "What do you mean?" "The core didn't fail naturally. These patterns show it was damaged on purpose. Someone changed the safety protocols." Their discovery spread quickly through the human crew. They gathered in their shared room, faces serious as they looked at the evidence. "But why would anyone want to destroy our ship?" Officer Shin asked, her voice shaking. Communications Officer Kim thought back to his security training. "What was our ship's real mission? We were supposed to be a normal cargo vessel, but—" "Wait," Chief Yum interrupted. He pulled out a small data chip from his pocket. "Before the evacuation, I found something strange in the maintenance logs. I downloaded it, but haven't had a chance to look at it yet." They plugged the chip into a tablet. Files opened, showing secret compartments built into the ship's cargo holds. Inside these compartments were machines they had never seen before. "That's classified technology," Nam said, his eyes wide. "I recognize it from rumors at the space dock. Some kind of new defense system that isn't supposed to exist." Specialist Choi, who had been quiet, spoke up. "The last time we docked, I saw people in corporate uniforms. They weren't regular crew. They spent a lot of time in the cargo areas." Medical Officer Park looked worried. Could they have been the ones who damaged the core? Just then, Sun Sound entered their room. The VAR leader's skin showed patterns of concern. "Friends, we found something you should see." They followed Sun Sound to the VAR ship's science lab. Other VAR were there, studying images on their screens. "When scanning your pod," Sun Sound explained, "we found traces of energy we have seen before." The screens showed detailed scans of their escape pod. The VAR scientists pointed to energy patterns around the damaged areas. "This technology," Light Whisper said, "destroyed 3 of our colony ships last year. We thought humans attacked us. Now we understand, was not all humans." The truth hit them hard. Their ship had been carrying secret weapons, the same kind that had hurt the VAR people. Someone had found out and tried to destroy the evidence by blowing up the ship. "We have to tell someone," Shin said. "The authorities need to know about this." "It's not that simple," Kim warned. "These corporations have a lot of power. They might try to stop us from talking." Nam looked at the VAR. "You could have left us in space when you found out about this technology, but you still helped us." Sun Sound's skin showed gentle colors. "Past is past. You helped heal our sick. Showed us humans can be trusted. Now we help you find truth." They spent hours going through the files, putting together the pieces. The Stellar Pioneer had been secretly testing weapons while pretending to be a cargo ship. When someone discovered the truth, they tried to destroy all evidence, not caring about the crew's lives. "We need proof that can't be denied," Boz said. "Something so clear that even the corporations can't hide it." "The other pods," Choi said suddenly. "If we find them, there might be more evidence, more witnesses." The VAR scientists offered to help analyze the data. Their advanced technology could track the likely paths of other escape pods better than human systems could. As they worked together, humans and VAR, Kim thought about how strange it was. They had lost their ship and nearly died, only to find out their mission had been a lie. But in losing their ship, they had found something more important: the truth and allies who would help them reveal it. "Whatever we find," Kim told his crew, "we'll face it together. And this time, we have friends to help us." The VAR's skin patterns showed agreement and support. Sometimes, the worst discoveries could lead to the best alliances. Sarah woke up early the next morning, eager to explore more of the magical land she had discovered. She ate a quick breakfast and packed some snacks and water in her backpack. She also grabbed the special necklace that the wise old tree had given her. She began walking through the colorful forest again, admiring the vibrant flowers and listening to the cheerful songs of the birds. After a while, she came to a babbling brook. The water was crystal clear and looked refreshing. Sarah decided to take a short rest and have a drink. As she sat by the brook, she noticed some peculiar rocks across the water. They were arranged in a circle and looked quite intentional, as if someone had placed them there. Curious, Sarah found a place where she could hop across the rocks to the other side of the brook. She approached the circle of rocks cautiously. In the center was a small pool of water that reflected the sunlight in a mesmerizing way. Sarah gazed into the pool, watching the light dance on the ripples. Suddenly, an image began to appear. It looked like a castle high on a hill, surrounded by tall trees. Sarah blinked and rubbed her eyes. Was she seeing things? But when she looked again, the castle was still there, almost like a vision in the enchanted pool. She wondered what it could mean. Was this a sign of where she was supposed to go next on her journey? Just then, she heard a voice behind her. "Ah, I see you have found the pool of visions," the voice said. Sarah turned around to see a small, green, frog-like creature sitting on one of the rocks at the edge of the circle. "The pool of visions," Sarah repeated, looking back at the shimmering water. "Is that what this is?" The frog creature nodded. "Indeed it is, young traveler. This magical pool shows glimpses of the future, or perhaps important places one is destined to go. The vision is different for each person." Sarah's eyes widened. "So you mean that castle? I'm supposed to go there?" "It seems quite likely," the frog replied. "Though the future is not always clear and may shift like the ripples on the water. Tell me, what do you feel called to do?" Sarah considered this, gazing back at the castle in the vision. She couldn't explain it, but something deep inside her was urging her to find that castle on the hill, like it was pulling her towards her destiny. With a determined nod, she turned back to the frog creature. "I feel like I need to find that castle," she declared. "Do you have any idea how I can get there?" The small green creature tapped his chin thoughtfully. "To get to the castle on the hill, you must follow the path of light through the whispering woods. The path appears only to those who are meant to walk it. Keep an eye out for glowing stones to guide your way." Sarah listened carefully, trying to commit the frog's instructions to memory. "Thank you for your guidance," she said, bowing her head respectfully. "I will do my best to find this path of light." The frog gave her a reassuring smile. "I have no doubt that you will, young heroine. Just remember to trust your heart, be brave, and let the magic of this land guide you. Now you best be on your way. Your destiny awaits." With one last grateful nod to her new amphibious friend, Sarah crossed back over the brook and continued her trek through the enchanted forest. She kept her eyes open for any glowing stones, eager to find the path that would lead her to the mysterious castle on the hill. Little did Sarah know, her grandest adventure was only just beginning. Sarah walked through the magical forest, keeping a lookout for the glowing stones that the wise frog had told her about. She knew she needed to find the path of light to reach the mysterious castle on the hill she saw in the vision. The trees seemed to whisper to each other as a gentle breeze blew through their leaves. Sarah wondered if they were talking about her and her quest. Bird songs and the chirping of insects filled the air. The forest felt alive with hidden magic. As the sun started to go down, painting the sky in pretty pinks and oranges, Sarah began to worry. She had been searching for the path of light for hours, but hadn't found any glowing stones yet. Would she have to spend the night in the woods alone? Just as the last light was fading, Sarah spotted a faint glow up ahead through the trees. Her heart leaped with excitement and relief. She hurried forward and found a small, shiny stone lying on the ground. It sparkled like it had trapped a piece of starlight inside. This must be one of the magical stones. Sarah looked around and noticed another glimmering light a short distance away. She walked to it and found another stone. Slowly, she began to piece together a path marked by the softly glowing rocks. With renewed energy, she followed the trail deeper into the forest as the sky turned dark and filled with stars. The luminous stones led Sarah to the mouth of a cave hidden behind a curtain of hanging vines. She hesitated for a moment. It looked dark and spooky inside the cave, but she remembered the frog's advice to be brave and trust the magic. Taking the deep breath, she pushed aside the vines and stepped into the inky blackness. To her amazement, the rocks on the floor of the cave glowed even brighter than the ones in the forest. They created a clear path for her to follow. The cave walls sparkled like they were dusted with diamonds. Sarah walked further into the mountain, her footsteps echoing in the hollow space. As she turned a corner, Sarah stopped in surprise. Ahead of her, the cave opened up into a vast cavern. In the center was a huge, shimmering lake that glowed with ethereal blue-green light. Countless stalactites hung down from the high ceiling like icicles. The overall effect was breathtaking, like something out of a dream. Sarah slowly approached the shore of the underground lake, marveling at her magical surroundings. She glimpsed movement beneath the glassy surface. A school of strange, luminous fish swam by. Each one trailed little sparks of light that danced through the water. On the far side of the lake, the path of light continued, leading to another tunnel out of the cavern. Wow! Sarah breathed in quiet wonder. She never imagined she would find such an incredible place on her journey. It gave her courage, knowing that such beauty existed in this land. With a spring in her step, she made her way along the edge of the glowing lake to follow the path onwards. Sarah emerged from the far tunnel and was amazed once again. She found herself on a high cliff edge, looking out over a vast, moonlit valley filled with tall, majestic trees. And there, in the distance, perched atop a high hill, was the twinkling silhouette of the enchanted castle she had seen in the vision. "I made it through the whispering woods and found the castle," Sarah exclaimed, feeling victorious. She was getting closer to her destination and the answers she was seeking about the magic of this place and her role in it. With the shining castle as her guiding star, Sarah carefully climbed down from the rocky cliff and set off through the valley, ready for the next leg of her adventure. She didn't know what other marvels and challenges this quest would bring, but she was excited to find out. Somewhere deep down, Sarah sensed she was on the right path, bravely moving towards her destiny that awaited her at the mysterious castle on the hill.